I never thought a day would come when my own memories would feel heavier than my body. I'm Evelyn Ward, 52 years old. A seamstress who spent most of her life stitching other people's happiness while quietly burying my own. But life has a strange way of revealing truths at the very moment you think you've finally found peace. I learned this lesson the day my daughter, Ariana, introduced me to Trevor Elwood and his mother, Marilyn. If I had known what storms their smiles carried, I would have run long before they reached our doorstep. The first time Trevor arrived, Ariana looked like a girl who had finally found something soft to lean on. She had been fragile since Marcus, my husband, died. He was the only man she ever trusted, her anchor, her calm. And when he left this world, he took pieces of both of us with him. For years I watched Ariana build walls around her heart. And when Trevor appeared, she finally opened a window. I wanted to be happy for her. Maybe I even tried to convince myself I was. But Marilyn Elwood was the kind of woman who didn't walk into a room. She claimed it. Tall, silver hair that always seemed freshly styled. Diamonds too large for the daylight. Perfume that smelled like money and intention. She didn't look at me as a person. She looked at me the way people look at a fabric sample, evaluating whether I was worth keeping or throwing away. I remember the first dinner at our house. My hands trembled while placing the plates on the table. That was the night Marilyn's eyes scanned every inch of our modest dining room. Every scratch on the table, every uneven tile, every outdated picture frame holding the life I had scraped together for my daughter. "How quaint," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Quaint. A word people like her used when they wanted to avoid saying poor. Trevor reached for Ariana's hand and kissed it. He was handsome, polite, soft-spoken, the very image of a good man. Or maybe I just wanted him to be one because Ariana deserved someone gentle after all her years of loss. She glowed when she looked at him. That glow was all I cared for then. But Marilyn's gaze lingered on Ariana. Not with affection but with curiosity. As if she were calculating something. As if she had found a puzzle and wanted to know how many pieces were missing. Later that night, while washing dishes, I heard whispers behind the kitchen wall. Marilyn's voice, smooth as silk, sharp as glass, reached me. "Trevor, darling, she's lovely. But she doesn't come from our world." Ariana stiffened. I could feel the silence on the other side of the wall. Trevor answered softly. "Mom, I love her." "Love is sweet at 28, Marilyn replied. "But marriage is business. Sustainability. Reputation. You don't marry someone who can't elevate you." My hands froze in the dishwater. Not elevate. She meant not wealth. Not status. Not background. In that moment I understood exactly what I was to her. Nothing. And what Ariana was, an inconvenience. But Ariana didn't hear the rest. Maybe it was a blessing she didn't. For weeks after that, Marilyn made it her silent mission to turn our world upside down. She offered to help with the wedding arrangements. That word help tasted like poison in her mouth. She replaced Ariana's simple, elegant wedding dress with a designer gown worth more than 3 years of my earnings. She insisted on a 5-star venue when we could barely afford flowers. And every time Ariana protested, Marilyn would gently place her hand on her arm and say, "Dear, you deserve the best. And my Trevor deserves the best by his side." But her help wasn't free. Nothing from women like Marilyn ever is. The first sign of trouble came 2 months before the wedding. Ariana came home with red eyes and trembling hands. I knew she had been crying, but she tried to hide it. "Mom, can we talk?" I put away the dress I had been altering and sat with her on the bed, just like I had since she was a little girl afraid of thunderstorms. "I think Marilyn wants me to sign something," she whispered. "What kind of something?" She hesitated, and that hesitation squeezed my heart. "A financial agreement. A prenuptial contract, but not the normal kind. She wants me to promise I won't claim anything from Trevor, even in the future. And that if anything happens, I won't have any rights." I felt my lungs tighten. Did Trevor ask for this? "No," Ariana said quickly. He looked uncomfortable. "It's all her. She thinks because we don't have money, I'm after something. After something. As if my daughter, who stitched dreams into every dress she touched, was some kind of parasite." "What did you say to her?" I asked. Ariana looked at her hands. "I said I needed time to think." "Good," I told her, though inside me something cracked. "You don't sign something like that because someone forces you." A weak smile formed on her lips. "I knew you'd say that." But that smile vanished 2 days later when Marilyn invited Ariana to lunch. She went alone because she wanted to handle things calmly. I waited the entire afternoon, pacing the living room, checking the window every few minutes. When Ariana finally walked in, she looked defeated in a way I had never seen before. I held her shoulders. "What happened?" She shook her head as tears filled her eyes. She said, Ariana stopped, unable to finish. She said that Trevor is their only son, their name, their legacy, and that if I love him, I should prove I'm not a liability. A liability? I whispered. She called you that? Not directly, but that's what she meant. Mom, she even brought up my father. She said the Elwoods don't want someone from a broken home. I felt the world tilt. Marcus wasn't just my husband, he was Ariana's hero. His death wasn't a stain, it was a wound we still carried. How dare she use that? What did Trevor say? I asked through clenched teeth. He wasn't there. She told me not to tell him. Of course she did. That night, after Ariana went to bed, I sat alone in the dark living room, remembering the promise I had made to Marcus the night he died. I held his hands, thin and cold, and he whispered, "Take care of her, Evie. Protect her from the world, even when she thinks she doesn't need it." I had failed that promise once, when Ariana stayed silent about her grief after his death. I would not fail again. The next morning, I went to meet Marilyn myself. She welcomed me with a smile meant to disarm, not invite. We sat in her sunlit sitting room, a chandelier above us, a marble floor beneath us, and a suffocating sense of superiority in the air. "I assume Ariana told you about the agreement," she said, stirring her tea. "Yes," I answered. "And she won't sign it." A soft laugh escaped her. "Oh, Mrs. Ward. Evelyn, you misunderstand. This isn't optional. It's a protection." "Protection from what?" I asked. "From unpredictability. Your daughter is sweet, but she comes from..." She paused delicately. "Different circumstances. You can't blame a mother for wanting security for her only son." My voice trembled with calm fury. "I understand a mother's fear. But fear doesn't give you the right to humiliate my daughter." "Humiliate?" Marilyn repeated, as if offended by the word. "Evelyn, I am offering her a chance to marry into a respected family. This agreement is a small price." "She loves your son," I said softly. "And he loves her," she added quickly. "But love is not enough. Stability is essential. Then let them build that stability together." She smiled again, the same cold smile that made me feel like I was shrinking in my seat. "Evelyn, you don't understand my world. And that's fine. But let me be honest with you. Ariana will never fit into it. Not the way she is now." My heart thudded painfully. "What do you mean? The way she is now?" She leaned back, crossed her legs elegantly, and said the words that burned themselves into my soul. "She needs shaping, refinement, guidance. And I'm willing to give her that, if she cooperates." "If she cooperates?" I repeated. "Signs the agreement, learns our etiquette, adjusts, behaves, keeps distance from certain influences." My blood ran cold. Influences. Marilyn gave a small sip of tea, then looked me dead in the eye. "I mean you." Silence filled the room like smoke. "She won't need to visit often," Marilyn continued calmly. "Maybe on holidays. And of course, she'll be very busy once she becomes an Elwood." I stared at her, unable to breathe. "You want to take her away from me," I whispered. "No," she corrected gently. "I want to remove distractions." I stood up, my legs trembling. "A mother is not a distraction." She smiled again, victory glowing in her eyes. "Sometimes, Evelyn, she is." That was the moment I knew what Marilyn Elwood truly was. Not controlling. Not strict. Not protective. She was a woman who collected people like possessions, and she had marked my daughter as her newest acquisition. I left without saying another word. But her last sentence followed me all the way home like a shadow. Ariana is the future of the Elwood family, and the future must be shaped correctly. When I walked into our house, Ariana was sitting on the sofa, knees pulled to her chest. She looked up at me with fearful eyes. "Mom, what did she say?" I wanted to protect her. I wanted to shield her. I wanted to tell her Marilyn had simply misunderstood. But lies never saved anyone. I sat beside her and held her tight. "She said she wants to change you," I whispered. "And she wants you to sign that contract." Ariana's lip trembled. "If I don't," she said, "Trevor might not go through with the wedding." And there it was, the threat beneath the silk. My daughter broke into sobs, collapsing into my arms. I held her as tightly as I could, my heart cracking with every cry that escaped her. She wasn't just scared. She was cornered. And for the first time I realized something terrifying. Marilyn wasn't trying to protect Trevor. She wasn't trying to keep their name intact. She was trying to own my daughter. And I had no idea how to save her. That night sleep refused to come. I lay awake listening to the quiet hum of our tiny fan, watching the shadows move across the ceiling. Every breath Ariana took from the room next to mine felt fragile, as if her lungs were afraid to trust the air around her. I wanted to protect her. God, I wanted to shield her from everything that carried Marilyn's name. But I also knew one truth I hated admitting even to myself. My daughter loved Trevor. Deeply. Completely. Blindly. Love makes you brave, but it also makes you vulnerable enough to be shattered with a whisper. The next morning, Ariana didn't touch her breakfast. She didn't speak unless I asked something. She moved like a girl who wasn't sure whether her dreams were allowed to belong to her anymore. By noon, she finally said the words I had feared. Mom, I want to marry Trevor. Even if I have to sign the agreement. My chest tightened so violently I had to grip the table. Ariana, no. What choice do I have? She whispered. I love him. I don't want to lose him. You won't, I said, trying to steady my voice. If he loves you, truly loves you, he won't let his mother bully you like this. But she looked at me with a sadness I will never forget. Mom, I don't think he knows. I think Marilyn has been doing all of this behind his back. Maybe she was right. Maybe Trevor wasn't the villain in this story. But he wasn't the hero either. Not yet. That afternoon, Ariana insisted on meeting Trevor alone. She wanted to explain everything, calmly and maturely. Her words, not mine. I didn't want her to go. Not when her heart was hanging by a thread and Marilyn had already tightened her grip. But Ariana was never a child who learned from warnings. She learned from wounds. She returned 3 hours later. Her eyes were swollen. Her voice small. Her hands shaking. I tried to breathe through the dread growing inside me. What happened? I asked softly. She swallowed. He didn't know. About the contract. Or the rules. What did he say when you told him? He said he'd talk to his mother. Her voice wavered. But he also said. He said she's not wrong to want to protect our future. I closed my eyes. It was a small sentence, but it was enough to slice into her. So he agrees with her? I asked. She shook her head quickly. Not fully. He said he doesn't care about the money part, but he also said it would be easier if I signed it so his mom wouldn't be upset. Easier. For him. Not for her. And then? I asked quietly. Then Marilyn showed up at the restaurant. Of course she did. Marilyn didn't miss opportunities. She created them. Ariana wiped her cheeks. She was very calm at first. Too calm. She asked me if I was ready to do the right thing for the family. And what did you say? I told her I was still thinking. Tears filled her eyes again. That's when she got different. Different how? Ariana inhaled shakily. She said I'm causing unnecessary stress for Trevor. That if I truly cared about him, I wouldn't put him in a position where he had to choose between his mother and his fiancé. I felt my heart ache. She said that. And more. Ariana's voice trembled. She said I was trying to trap him emotionally. That I was being emotional and dramatic. That good wives don't create trouble, they solve it. Good wives. Mom, Ariana whispered. She said if I keep making things difficult, the wedding might need to be postponed. Or reconsidered. Postponed. Reconsidered. The words that kill dreams quietly. I held Ariana close, stroking her hair the way I did when she was little. She was still trembling. Mom, I don't know what to do. She's making me feel like I'm already failing Trevor before I even become his wife. You're not failing him, I whispered. She's manipulating you. I know, she said. But what if she convinces him? What if he thinks I'm a burden? A burden. My daughter had spent her entire life being gentle, thoughtful, loyal, loving. Yet somehow Marilyn had convinced her she was a weight around Trevor's neck. Mom, Ariana said suddenly, lifting her head. Promise me something. Anything. If signing that paper is what it takes to keep him, promise me you won't stop me. My throat tightened. Ariana. Please, she begged softly. I don't want to lose him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her. I wanted to tell her she was worth so much more than a signature, so much more than Marilyn's approval. But the desperation in her voice broke me. She didn't want advice. She wanted permission. And as her mother, I couldn't be the reason she lost the only love she had found since losing her father. I won't stop you, I finally whispered. She exhaled shakily. A sound that felt like surrender. But even as I held her, something cold settled in my chest. I knew Marilyn had won the first battle. I didn't know then that the war had only just begun. 2 days later, an invitation arrived. Delivered by a uniformed assistant wearing white gloves. Mrs. Ward, he announced stiffly. Marilyn Elwood invites you and Ariana to a private luncheon at the Elwood estate tomorrow at 1 o'clock. The card was heavy, embossed, unnecessarily formal. I knew what it really was. A summoning. Ariana's hands trembled as she held the envelope. Mom, I'm scared. So am I admitted. But we'll face it together. The next afternoon we dressed carefully. Ariana wore a pale blue dress she had designed herself, simple, elegant, glowing with her gentle personality. I wore my best blouse, ironed twice so it looked crisp despite its age. The Elwood estate looked like something out of a magazine, grand pillars, spotless windows, lawns manicured by people who probably never took a break. 2 servants escorted us to the glass-walled conservatory, where Marilyn sat elegantly, sipping tea from china that looked too fragile to touch. Evelyn. Ariana. She smiled, warm but empty. Please sit. We obeyed. Ariana's hands were clasped tightly on her lap. I'm glad you came, Marilyn began smoothly. There are important matters we need to discuss before the wedding. My heart sank. Of course. First, Marilyn continued, I want to clarify something. I never intended to pressure anyone. But marriage into the Elwood family comes with certain expectations. Expectations. Control. Ownership. She used different words to hide the same intention. Ariana, she said with a poised smile, I have tremendous faith in your potential. The word potential lingered like a threat. But you must understand the environment you are entering. Society observes us, judges us, and unfortunately, your background invites scrutiny. Ariana lowered her eyes in shame. I couldn't stay silent. With all due respect, I said calmly, Ariana's background is filled with love, dignity, and hard work. There's nothing shameful about that. Marilyn didn't look at me. She kept her eyes on Ariana. You deserve to rise, she said softly. But rising requires sacrifice. Sacrifice. It was a word I understood too well. But Marilyn wasn't talking about compromise or effort. She was talking about obedience. Ariana, she continued, I want you to sign the prenuptial agreement before the end of the week. Ariana tensed. I will sign it, she said quietly. My heart cracked. But Marilyn wasn't finished. I also want you to begin your etiquette training. There are mannerisms, speech patterns, behaviors, and social expectations you must learn. I clenched my jaw. The list was growing. And lastly, Marilyn's eyes slid to me. I want you to distance yourself from emotional dependencies. I froze. You mean me? I asked. Marilyn set her teacup down. Ariana is entering a new world. She cannot do that if she keeps one foot in her old one. We want her to focus fully on her new family. Her new family. Meaning not me. Are you saying she shouldn't visit? I whispered. Visits are fine, she replied, though her tone said otherwise. But not too often. And not when there are important social events she must attend. Ariana's voice shook. But my mom. Marilyn cut her off gently. Ariana. Sometimes growing requires letting go of things that keep you small. Small. I was small to her. My love, my motherhood, my sacrifices, small. Ariana's breath hitched. She looked torn, desperate. I felt something break inside me. But Marilyn wasn't finished. There was always more. Finally, she said, folding her hands gracefully, I want you to move into our estate 2 weeks before the wedding. Ariana gasped softly. My heart stopped. Live there? With them? Under Marilyn's constant watch? No, no, no. I opened my mouth to oppose it, but Ariana grabbed my hand beneath the table, pleading with her eyes. Don't fight for me. Please. Not here. Not now. I swallowed the words burning in my throat. Marilyn smiled, satisfied. Good. I'm glad we understand each other. But she was wrong. I didn't understand her. I understood her too well. She didn't just want my daughter and her family. She wanted to reshape her. Break her. Own her. Separate her from me so she could mold her into something unrecognizable. Something obedient. Something Elwood. That night, after Ariana went to bed, I stood in the dark living room again, just like I had the night Marcus died. His photo sat on the mantel. His smile kind. His eyes soft. I don't know what to do, I whispered to him. But there was no answer. Just the quiet hum of nighttime, and the chilling realization settling in my bones. Marilyn Elwood had not only entered our lives. She had plans. She had patience. And she had power. But she had one more thing she didn't realize. She had chosen the wrong mother to challenge. Because I had already lost one person I loved. I would not lose another without a fight. This was only the beginning. And I knew, deep in my bones. I still remember the morning Ariana began packing her things. How her hands moved mechanically, folding clothes without seeing them. How her breath trembled each time she placed something into the suitcase. The quiet in the room felt unnatural, as if even the walls were holding their breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. She was leaving for the Elwood estate, 2 weeks before the wedding, just as Marilyn demanded. I stood in the doorway, watching her decide which parts of her life were acceptable enough to bring into Marilyn's world. The books her father had bought her stayed on the shelf. The little wooden jewelry box Marcus had carved for her remained untouched. The hand-stitched blue scarf she wore every winter lay abandoned on her chair. Every item she left behind felt like another piece of her identity she was being forced to shed. "You don't have to go," I finally whispered. Ariana stopped folding and looked up at me with tired eyes. "Mom, I already agreed." "You agreed under pressure," I said softly. "That's not the same." "It doesn't matter." She tried to smile but it cracked. "I want to show Trevor's mother that I can adjust, that I can fit in." "You don't have to fit into anything," I said, my voice trembling. "You are enough as you are." She looked at me with a sadness that felt older than her 25 years. "Mom, sometimes love requires compromise." "No," I whispered, stepping closer. "Control requires compromise. Love doesn't." Her eyes dropped. "Maybe, but I don't want to lose Trevor." "And what about losing yourself?" I asked. She didn't answer. Perhaps she didn't know. Perhaps she didn't want to. When she zipped up her suitcase, the sound felt like a closing door. Marcus once told me, "The hardest part of being a mother is watching your child walk into the fire, knowing you can't stop them, only follow behind with water." That morning I understood exactly what he meant. Trevor arrived to pick her up shortly after noon. He looked handsome, well-groomed and composed, everything Marilyn had raised him to be. But when his eyes landed on Ariana, something flickered there. Worry, guilt, or maybe the faint realization that the woman he loved was being reshaped by his own mother's hands. "Hey," he whispered, pulling Ariana into a hug. I noticed how tightly she held onto him, like he was the last familiar thing in a world that was slowly erasing itself. "Are you ready?" he asked gently. She nodded, though her lips trembled. Trevor turned to me, offering a smile that was polite but distant. "I'll take good care of her, Mrs. Ward." It was meant to reassure me, but instead it felt like a promise he had no authority to make. "Trevor," I said softly, "please don't let your mother overwhelm her." He hesitated. "My mom means well." I looked at him, really looked at him and realized something painful. He believed that. He believed Marilyn's manipulation was love. He believed control was protection. He believed obedience was loyalty. Trevor wasn't cruel. He was simply conditioned. "Just be there for her," I said instead. "I will," he promised. But promises spoken under someone else's influence rarely survive. When they walked out to the car, Ariana looked back at me one last time. It wasn't a glance, it was a silent cry. "Don't let me disappear, Mom." I lifted my hand, forcing a smile I didn't feel, and watched the car pull away. The moment it turned the corner, the tears came. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the quiet ache of a mother watching her child walk into a life that wasn't hers anymore. The Elwood estate looked like a palace from the outside, but inside, Ariana described it as a museum of expectations. On her first night there, she called me, whispering, afraid someone might hear. "Mom, the house is beautiful but it doesn't feel like a home." "What happened?" I asked, gripping the phone. "Marilyn showed me the room they prepared for me." "That's good, isn't it?" "Not really. Mom, everything in it is white. White walls, white curtains, white bedding. It looks like a showroom. There's not a single picture on the walls. No personal items. Nothing that belongs to me." My throat tightened. "Did you ask if you could bring your own things?" "I did." She hesitated. She said we should keep the room, a blank canvas, until she finishes helping me rebrand myself. "Rebrand?" I repeated, nauseated. "Yes. She said I need to develop a more refined identity before the wedding. New makeup, new clothes, new posture lessons, new speech patterns." "Speech patterns?" "They hired a voice coach," Ariana whispered, "to teach me how to sound more polished." Polished? As if her natural voice, the voice that carried every laugh, every tear, every memory, needed sanding down. "Ariana," I whispered, "this isn't normal." She exhaled shakily. "I know, but Trevor says it's temporary. Just until the wedding. Temporary control often becomes permanent." "What about Trevor?" I asked. "Did he defend you?" "He tried. But Marilyn told him this is what every woman marrying into a prestigious family goes through. And he agreed. Or maybe he just didn't want to argue. I felt anger rising inside me, hot, sharp, and protective. Sweetheart, you don't have to let them change you. I know, she whispered. But I don't want to disappoint Trevor. And Marilyn keeps saying all of this is for my own good, so I can be accepted. Accepted. Acceptance should never require erasing yourself. Before I could respond, she spoke again. Mom. There's another thing. My heart dropped. What? Marilyn asked me not to call you too much. She said I need to focus on my transition into the family. Transition. As if she were entering a cult. What did you say to her? I demanded. I said I'll always call you. I said you're my mother. Her voice wavered. She smiled and said, Of course, dear, for now. For now. Those two words clung to my skin like ice. Ariana, come home. I whispered. Come home right now. I can't. She sounded like she was breaking. It will create conflict. And Trevor hates conflict. He shuts down when things get tense. Exactly. Exactly the environment Marilyn thrived in. Mom, she whispered after a long pause. I feel like I'm being watched. What do you mean? There are cameras in the hallways. Staff everywhere. Marilyn knocks on my door without waiting. And tonight, she told me to hand over my schedule so she can manage it. Manage your schedule? I repeated, horrified. She said I'll be too busy with etiquette training and wedding preparations to have much free time. And where is Trevor in all this? He's working most of the day. When he comes home, Marilyn is always around. I barely get time alone with him. I closed my eyes. Marilyn wasn't just controlling Ariana. She was isolating her. Ariana, I whispered. This isn't a family. It's a cage. I know, she said softly. But I love him. Love. The most dangerous prison of all. Before she hung up, she whispered. Mom, I miss you. Her voice cracked. I miss you too, baby, I whispered. More than you know. But as I ended the call, I felt a sinking dread. Ariana wasn't just slipping away. She was being taken. 3 days later, I received a call that shattered me. Not from Ariana. From Trevor. Mrs. Ward, he began, his voice calm but tense. I'm calling because my mother is concerned. Concerned? Of course. What happened? I asked. There was an incident today, he said. Ariana broke down during a lesson. She started crying and said she wanted to go home. I felt my pulse spike. And what did your mother do? She tried to calm her. She thinks Ariana is overwhelmed and needs space from outside influences that might be pressuring her emotionally. Outside influences. Meaning me. She said Ariana's anxiety worsens after talking to you. I froze. Excuse me, I said sharply. Trevor continued, almost rehearsed. My mom believes the wedding pressure is too much for Ariana. And she thinks your involvement is adding stress. My involvement? My voice trembled with fury. I'm her mother, Trevor. Of course I'm involved. I know, he said quickly. But my mother thinks Ariana needs a stable environment right now. And she feels too many emotional attachments might distract her. I wanted to scream. But I forced my words out slowly. What are you saying, Trevor? He exhaled. She asked me to request that you give Ariana a little space. Space? I whispered. You want me to stop talking to my own daughter? Just temporarily, he said. Until the wedding. Just until things settle. My voice came out in a whisper. Trevor, does Ariana want this? He hesitated. No, but she's confused right now. She needs guidance. Guidance, I repeated hollowly. Or control. Mrs. Ward, he said, sighing. Please try to understand. My mother knows how to manage these situations. She has experience with high-pressure environments. I felt sick. Trevor, I whispered. If you truly love her, don't let your mother destroy her. His silence told me everything. He wasn't going to choose Ariana. He wasn't going to challenge Marilyn. He wasn't going to protect the woman he claimed to love. I ended the call without another word. And I knew then, deep in my bones, that Ariana was in danger. Not physical danger. Something worse. The danger of becoming someone she wasn't. The danger of losing herself piece by piece. The danger of being shaped so completely that one day she might look at me and see a stranger. I had promised Marcus I would protect her. And I had already let her walk into the lion's den. But I would not let Marilyn Elwood swallow her whole. Not without a fight. Not while I still had breath in my lungs. This story was no longer just about Ariana's wedding. It was about a mother reclaiming her daughter. And the war had only just begun. The night after Trevor called me, I sat alone in the living room staring at the front door. The house felt emptier than it ever had. Like Ariana's absence had drained all the color from the walls. Every second felt heavy with helplessness. I had raised my daughter to be brave, to love deeply, to trust easily. But I had never prepared her for the kind of woman Marilyn Elwood was. A woman who didn't destroy people with violence, but with quiet manipulation. With elegance. With a smile. I kept asking myself the same painful question. How do you fight someone who hides poison inside kindness? The next morning I couldn't sit still. I couldn't sew. I couldn't eat. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept checking my phone for a message from Ariana. But there was nothing. No calls. No texts. The silence was a monster in the room. By noon I couldn't stop myself anymore. I grabbed my bag and took a bus toward the Elwood estate. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to see my daughter with my own eyes. Needed to know she wasn't falling apart behind those enormous gates. When I finally reached the estate, I stood outside the tall iron gate for a long moment, trying to gather strength. The guard looked at me through the window. Name, he asked. Evelyn Ward, I replied. He paused, then shook his head. You're not on the visitor list. My stomach dropped. Please, just tell Ariana her mother is here. He hesitated, then made a call. I waited, gripping the strap of my bag so tightly my fingers hurt. Finally, he hung up. Mrs. Elwood says Ariana is unavailable. Unavailable. The word cut me. I'm her mother, I said softly. I need to see her. He shifted uncomfortably. I'm sorry, ma'am. Orders. Orders. Of course. I stood there staring at the gate, feeling smaller by the second. I wasn't trying to barge in. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't creating a scene. I just wanted to see my daughter. But Marilyn had built a wall higher than the estate itself. The guard looked at me with sympathy, and that hurt even more. Pity was for people who had already lost. I turned away, my eyes burning, and walked until the estate disappeared behind the trees. On the bus ride home, I kept replaying everything. The contract. The training. The cameras. The restrictions. Ariana breaking down. Trevor asking me to give her space. And now being blocked from seeing her. It wasn't just control anymore. It was isolation. That night at nearly midnight my phone buzzed. Ariana. I answered instantly. Her voice was whisper-soft, trembling. Mom. My heart clenched. Baby, what's wrong? I only have a minute, she whispered. I'm hiding in the guest bathroom. Talk to me, I pleaded. What happened? Her breathing was uneven. Mom. Something isn't right here. What do you mean? They won't let me leave the estate today. I asked to go shopping. Marilyn said it wasn't necessary. Then I asked Trevor if he could drive me somewhere. Anywhere. And he said it's better if I stay home and focus on my training. My blood went cold. Sweetheart, that's not normal. I know, she whispered. And Mom. She took my phone earlier. My heart dropped. What? She said it was distracting me. She said she would return it after my etiquette lesson. But she kept it until dinner. And when she finally gave it back, she said, I hope there are no messages that pull you in the wrong direction. My hands trembled around the phone. She wants to control who you talk to. Mom. I'm scared. Her voice broke. She watches everything. She critiques everything. Today she told me I walk too casually. Yesterday she said my smile is too soft. She made me practice sitting at the dinner table for an hour. She told me which forks I'm allowed to use. And she told me the story I told at dinner was too emotional. She said emotion makes people uncomfortable. Emotion makes people uncomfortable. Of course Marilyn would say that. She only understood power, not humanity. Ariana sniffed. Mom. I feel like I'm disappearing. My chest tightened painfully. Come home. Right now. I will come get you. I can't, she whispered. She told the staff to inform her if I tried to leave without permission. Permission. My daughter was living under permission. Ariana. I whispered softly. This is abuse. She inhaled sharply, as if the word frightened her. Please don't say that. If Trevor hears. He should hear. I snapped before I could stop myself. He should know what his mother is doing to you. She went silent for several seconds. When she finally spoke, her voice was small, broken. Mom. I don't think he sees it. Marilyn tells him I'm sensitive. Emotional. Overwhelmed. She makes it sound like everything she does is for my benefit. And he believes her. Because he's been raised to, I said gently. He doesn't know any different. I know. But sometimes I look at him and it feels like he's her shadow. Like he's never truly by my side. Always one step behind her. My throat tightened. Baby. You don't have to marry into this. She didn't answer. The silence was long. Too long. Finally, she whispered. Mom, do you think I'm losing myself? I felt something inside me crack. No. You're being pushed. Controlled. Conditioned. That's not losing yourself. It's someone trying to take you away. Her breath hitched. I miss home. I miss you, I whispered. I want to come tomorrow, she whispered. Just for a few hours. Just to feel normal again. But, Mom, I'm scared she won't let me. I'll come get you, I said instantly. No panic rushed into her voice. If you show up without permission, she'll twist it. She'll say you're trying to pull me away. She'll make Trevor upset. She'll make things worse. I swallowed a wave of frustration, helplessness, and rage. What do you want me to do? I asked softly. Just stay close, she whispered. Stay near your phone. I'll try to call again tomorrow. I wanted to beg her to leave, to run, to come home with me. But I also knew something else. If her world collapses too quickly, she might collapse with it. So I steadied my voice. I'm here. Always. Before she hung up, she whispered something so soft, so broken it shattered me. Mom, I'm afraid Marilyn doesn't want a daughter-in-law. She wants a doll. The line went dead before I could respond. I sat there in the darkness, phone clenched in my hand, feeling a storm build in my chest. This had gone far beyond strictness, beyond tradition, beyond expectations. This was control, possession, reshaping, isolation. This was the slow erasure of a person. The next morning I barely slept. I kept waiting for her call. Every time the phone buzzed, my heart jumped. But each time it was nothing, notifications, spam, a neighbor asking if I could hem a dress. By noon, panic had settled heavily inside me. At 2:17 p.m. my phone finally rang. Ariana. Her voice was shakier than yesterday. Mom. What's wrong? She found out, she whispered. She found out I called you last night. My pulse spiked. How? She checked the phone logs. She said she needed to monitor my stress triggers. I felt rage burn through me. What did she do? I forced out. She wasn't angry, Ariana said. That's what scared me. She was calm. Too calm. She said I shouldn't rely on you so much. She said I'm going to be part of a new family soon. And I need to learn independence. Independence? That woman had trapped her in a cage and called it independence. Ariana's breaths turned uneven. She said maybe I should limit calls to once a week. I felt the world tilt. Once a week. She said emotional attachments weaken focus. She said you're influencing my thoughts. Influencing. A mother's love reduced to manipulation. What did Trevor say about this? I asked. He said he understands both sides. He said his mother is only trying to keep things peaceful before the wedding. I clenched my jaw so tightly it hurt. Ariana, this isn't peace. It's control. I know, she whispered, her voice breaking. But I don't know how to fight it. You don't have to fight it alone, I said softly. Her voice trembled. Mom, I think Marilyn wants to separate us completely. I think she wants me to become someone she owns. I closed my eyes, my heart twisting painfully. I'm coming for you, I whispered. No, she said quickly. Not yet. Just stay with me. Stay on the phone with me for a little longer. Her voice broke completely. I can't breathe in this house. I feel like I'm suffocating. That was it. That was the moment something inside me changed. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't unsure. I wasn't confused. I knew exactly what needed to happen. Ariana needed saving. And not gently. Not quietly. Not patiently. I was going to get my daughter back. Even if it meant tearing down the Elwood estate brick by brick. Even if it meant becoming someone I used to be afraid of. Even if it meant going to war with Marilyn Elwood. A woman who had no idea what a mother's love looks like when it's pushed past the edge. Ariana whispered. Mom, are you there? I took a deep breath. Yes, I said, steady and strong. And inside my chest a promise formed, silent but unbreakable. You can take her voice. You can shape her clothes. You can change her posture. You can rewrite her routine. But you will not take my daughter from me. Not while I'm still alive. This was not the end of episode 2. This was the beginning of my fight. Sometimes a mother just knows. There is a kind of silence that doesn't come from peace. It comes from danger. The kind that crawls under your skin, sits heavy on your heart, and whispers that something is terribly wrong. That was the silence I lived in after Ariana's last call. Days passed like shadows on the wall. Ariana called less. Not because she didn't want to, but because everything around her was tightening like a fist. I felt her slipping away with every hour. as if Marilyn was slowly pulling her into a world where I didn't exist. And then, on the fourth evening, I got no call at all. I waited, and then waited more. By midnight, the quiet became unbearable. I paced the living room floor, staring at my phone, my hands shaking with a fear I didn't want to name. At 1 a.m, I finally sat on the couch and whispered to the darkness, "Marcus, I don't know what to do. I don't know if spirits hear us. I don't know if the dead watch the living." But that night I felt his presence, the same warmth he carried every time he held me during storms. As if he was telling me, "Go. Don't wait." At sunrise I grabbed my bag, my old coat, and the courage I didn't feel. Then I took the first bus headed toward the Elwood estate. My heart pounded the whole way, beating so loudly I thought the other passengers could hear it. When the estate gates came into view, my breath hitched. I walked up to the guard, the same man as before, and he looked at me with surprise. "Mrs. Ward, I need to see my daughter," I said, my voice trembling. "It's urgent." He sighed. "Mrs. Elwood gave clear instructions." "I don't care about her instructions," I whispered fiercely. "Call her. Tell her I'm here. Tell her I won't leave." The guard hesitated, then dialed a number. I heard Marilyn's voice faintly through the receiver, sharp, irritated. He hung up after a short exchange, then looked at me nervously. "Mrs. Elwood says Ariana is resting and cannot meet right now." "Resting?" Something inside me cracked. "She's not resting," I whispered. "Something's wrong. I can feel it." "Ma'am, please don't make this difficult," he said quietly. "I could lose my job." I stared at the massive estate behind him and felt something shift inside me. "I'm not leaving." The guard swallowed. "Ma'am, I'm not," I repeated. "If I have to stand outside these gates all day, all night, I will." He didn't argue. Maybe he saw something in my eyes, something even I hadn't seen in myself until that moment. A fire. A mother's desperation. Time passed slowly. Cars entered and exited. Staff members glanced at me from a distance. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I stood like a statue carved from fear and determination. Nearly an hour later, a sleek black car approached from inside the estate. It drove slowly toward the gate. My heart raced. The window rolled down. Trevor sat inside. He looked tired, conflicted, almost guilty. "Mrs. Ward," he said softly, "you can't be here." My voice shook with anger. "Where is Ariana?" He didn't answer immediately. That silence was enough to rip the ground from under me. "Trevor," I whispered, "tell me the truth." He exhaled shakily. "She's upset. She's overwhelmed. My mother is trying to help her settle, but Ariana is resisting. She's emotional." "That's not emotion," I snapped. "That's suffocation." Trevor rubbed his forehead. "Mrs. Ward, please understand. My mom has high expectations. Ariana is trying her best, but she needs to stay focused." "Focused on what?" I demanded. "Losing herself? Becoming someone your mother approves of?" He flinched. For a moment, guilt flickered across his face. But it disappeared quickly, smoothed away by years of conditioning. "Trevor, I need to see her. I need to talk to her. She's my daughter." He hesitated, then whispered something that shattered me. "My mom thinks your presence is making things harder for her." "My presence?" I whispered. "Or my love?" He looked down. "She believes Ariana depends too much on you emotionally. She said it's preventing her from adjusting." I felt something burn inside me. Not just anger but heartbreak. "Trevor," I said softly, "Ariana loves you, but she is drowning in that house. She needs someone to reach for. She needs you." He looked older in that moment, tired, burdened, unsure. "I'm trying," he whispered. "But you don't know what my mother is like when she's determined." "I do know," I said. "More than you think." He swallowed. Before he could speak again, a cold voice floated from the back seat. "She doesn't need this conversation. Marilyn." She leaned forward, her eyes sharp and emotionless. "Mrs. Ward," she said, "your presence is causing unnecessary drama. Ariana is resting. She has lessons today. She is being prepared for her role." "Prepared?" I repeated. "She's a human being, not a performance." Marilyn smiled calmly. "She's becoming an Elwood. That requires structure." "No," I whispered. "It requires isolation. And you know it." Her smile faded. "Ariana will remain here," she said firmly. "And as for you, I expect you to respect boundaries." "Boundaries?" I scoffed. "You're taking my daughter from me." Marilyn's eyes hardened. "She chose this." "No," I said, stepping closer, tears burning in my eyes. You cornered her. You trapped her. And you're calling it choice. She didn't respond, which was an answer in itself. Where is she? I demanded again. She is unavailable. Let me see her. No. The word hit me like a slap. I felt something inside me snap. I didn't care anymore. Not about being polite. Not about being calm. I will not leave, I said. Not until I see Ariana with my own eyes. Marilyn leaned back slightly, not scared but irritated. You are emotional, Evelyn. And your emotions are destabilizing Ariana. If you truly care for her, go home. I stepped closer to the car window, looking right into her eyes. I will not go home. Not until I know my daughter is safe. Her expression darkened. If you insist on creating chaos, I will have to involve authorities. I froze. She meant it. Trevor whispered. Mom, please. But Marilyn didn't look at him. Drive. The window slid up. The car moved away. And I stood there helpless, watching them disappear behind the gates. That was the moment I realized something horrifying. Marilyn had planned this. All of it. The training. The restrictions. The isolation. The dependency. She was creating distance, slowly, strategically, until Ariana would no longer remember the life she had before. A daughter who forgets her mother is the perfect doll. Hours later, I was still outside the gates when my phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. My heart raced as I opened it. Mom. It's me. Don't reply. They checked my phone. I'm not okay. My breath caught. Another message appeared immediately after. She took my schedule. She watches everything. She doesn't let me leave. I need you. Please don't give up on me. My vision blurred with tears. Then one more message came, rushed, terrified. Mom. Something is happening tonight. I'll call you when I can. Please stay awake. The screen went silent. I stood there trembling. Something is happening tonight. The sun began to set behind the estate, and the lights inside the mansion flickered on one by one, glowing like the eyes of a predator. And I knew, with the certainty of a mother whose instincts never lie, that whatever was coming next would tear the world apart. Because Ariana wasn't just being controlled anymore. She was reaching out for help. She was slipping. And tonight, the Elwood mask would crack. For the first time, Marilyn had made a mistake. She let Ariana send a message. She let the truth escape the cage. And I was ready. This time, I wasn't waiting behind the gates. I was going to get my daughter back. No matter what stood in the way. No matter who tried to stop me. This was no longer just a battle. This was war. By the time night fully settled over the city, I was no longer pacing my house. I was frozen on the living room couch, clutching my phone like it was the last thread tying me to Ariana's world. The lights were off. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. But inside me, everything was shaking. A mother knows when her child is in danger. A mother feels it in her bones. And Ariana's message, something is happening tonight, repeated in my mind like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Every 10 minutes I checked the phone again, even though I knew I hadn't missed anything. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sit. I couldn't breathe without feeling like something was breaking inside me. At around 10:40 p.m., the phone finally rang. I answered before the first ring even finished. Mom. Ariana whispered, her voice trembling. Ariana, baby, talk to me. I breathed desperately. Mom. I don't have much time, she whispered. I could hear her breath shaking. She's making me sit with her. She's testing me. Testing you. Yes. Some kind of obedience test. She calls it conditioning. She wants to see if I can hold the posture and speech patterns she taught me for 2 hours straight without breaking. My stomach clenched. That's not training. That's psychological control. I know, she whispered. I can't do it anymore, Mom. Feel sick. I feel like I'm not even in my own body. I felt tears forming, burning behind my eyes. Where is Trevor? I whispered. He's downstairs. Mom, he doesn't see what's happening. She told him she's preparing me for the engagement dinner next week. He believes her. Ariana, I whispered, you need to leave. Tonight. Right now. I can't, she said, her voice breaking. There are guards at the exits. I'm coming, I said instantly. I don't care if they lock the gates. I'm coming, Ariana. Stay on the phone. No, she hissed softly. If she hears me. Suddenly footsteps echoed behind her. Mom, I have to go. Before she could finish, another voice broke through the speaker. Who are you speaking to? Marilyn. Cold. Smooth. Sharp. My body froze in place. Ariana whispered frantically. Mom. The call cut. I stared at the screen. Call ended. as if someone had snapped a fragile thread. A second later, a new message came through. No text, just 3 trembling voice notes. I pressed the first one. It was silent for the first 2 seconds. Then, Ariana's shaky whisper. She took my phone. She knows I called you. My heart raced. I pressed the second note. Mom. She said I'm becoming disobedient. She said this happens to girls who don't come from disciplined homes. She said you made me too emotional. My breath caught painfully. The third note was the one that killed me. Mom, she slapped me. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a soft thud. And something inside me, some old buried quiet part of me, exploded. This was no longer about wedding expectations. No longer about class differences. No longer about controlling behavior. Marilyn had hurt my daughter. My Ariana. And I felt something ancient awaken inside me. I stood up slowly, feeling the world sharpen around me with terrifying clarity. I grabbed my coat, my keys, my phone, and I walked out of the house with a determination I had not felt since Marcus died. I wasn't going to the Elwood estate as a polite mother anymore. I was going as a storm. By the time I reached the estate gates again, the night was thick and silent. The guard looked surprised to see me. Ma'am, it's almost midnight. You can't be here. Open the gate, I said, my voice low, steady, terrifyingly calm. I can't, he replied gently. Not without authorization. Then call her. Ma'am. Call her. Maybe it was the tone. Maybe it was the look in my eyes. But he dialed. He waited. When he spoke, his voice was careful. Mrs. Elwood says you cannot enter. I already knew she would say that. Fine, I whispered. Tell her I'm not leaving. I'm staying right here until I see my daughter. That's when I saw movement behind the frosted glass guard booth. Someone else approaching. Trevor. He walked toward me quickly, face tense, hair messy like he had been running his hands through it. Mrs. Ward, he said softly. What are you doing here? What do you think? I snapped. Your mother hit Ariana. Trevor froze. What? You heard me. His face paled. My mother wouldn't. Don't you dare defend her, I said, my voice cracking. Ariana sent me a voice note. I heard her. Trevor swallowed hard, shaken. Let me talk to her. That's exactly what you should do, I said, stepping closer. But you're not going in there alone. I'm coming with you. He hesitated, and that hesitation made my blood boil. Trevor. My voice dropped. Move. The gate. He didn't argue. He didn't try to convince me. He simply nodded at the guard. The gates slid open slowly, creaking like they were warning me of the battle waiting inside. We walked up the long driveway. Every step felt heavy, angry, determined. But when we reached the front doors, Marilyn was already waiting, standing there like a queen guarding her castle, hands clasped, spine straight, a smile too calm for the fire in her eyes. Evelyn, she said, like she was greeting a guest at a dinner party and not the mother of a girl she just struck. It's very late for visits. You hit my daughter, I said, trembling with rage. She didn't flinch. Not even 1 inch. I disciplined her, Marilyn corrected coldly. There is a difference. Trevor turned to her sharply. Mom, is that true? Marilyn didn't blink. Ariana was hysterical. She needed grounding. Grounding. I shouted. She's a human being, not a dog. Marilyn's jaw tightened. She needed correction, she said calmly. And if you had raised her with proper discipline, I wouldn't have to teach her now. That was it. That was the moment the world snapped. I lunged toward her. Not to hit her, not to harm her, but because rage pulled me forward like gravity. Trevor stepped between us. Enough, he said loudly, looking at his mother. Where is Ariana? Marilyn hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. Where is she? I screamed. Marilyn finally exhaled. She's in her room. I told her to stay inside until she settles. Take me to her, I demanded. No, Marilyn said simply. Trevor stared at her, stunned. Mom, what are you doing? Protecting the family, she said. No, I snapped. You're protecting your control. Marilyn's eyes flickered dangerously. She stepped closer to me. Evelyn, you do not belong here. And my daughter doesn't belong to you. For the first time, Marilyn lost composure. Her voice rose. You are destroying her future. No, I said quietly. You are destroying her. Silence fell. A tense, heavy silence. Then Trevor spoke, soft, shaking. I'm going to Ariana's room. Marilyn's face drained of color. Trevor. Move, he said. It was the first time I had ever heard him talk to her like that. Marilyn stepped aside stiffly, her jaw clenched so tightly it looked painful. Trevor led me up the staircase, down a thick carpeted hallway lined with portraits of Elwood ancestors, who all looked like they would disapprove of breathing incorrectly. He stopped at a white door. Ariana's door. He knocked softly. Ari. No answer. He knocked again. Ariana, it's me. Still nothing. My heart dropped. Open it. Trevor hesitated, then turned the handle. Locked. My chest tightened. Trevor. He didn't wait. He pulled a key from his pocket. Every bedroom had a master key, of course they did, and unlocked it. The door swung open, and I saw Ariana, sitting on the edge of the bed. Hands trembling. Eyes red. Hair messy from crying. Cheeks still slightly red from where Marilyn had struck her. Her suitcase half open as if she had tried to pack or escape. She looked up when we entered. For a second she didn't move. Then she whispered, "Mom." And she broke. She rushed into my arms with a sob so deep, so painful, so desperate that it ripped through the air like a scream. I held her tightly, burying my face in her hair. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm here. I'm here, baby." Her whole body shook. Trevor stood frozen in the doorway, horrified at the sight of her. "Trevor," she sobbed into my shoulder. I told you she was hurting me." Trevor's face twisted in guilt. "Ari, I didn't know. I swear." "She slapped me," Ariana choked out. "She told me I'm not good enough. She said I need to be purified." Purified. That word made my blood turn to fire. I turned to Trevor. "She's coming home with me." Trevor hesitated, torn between his mother and his fiancé. "Trevor," Ariana whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please." He closed his eyes, and finally nodded. Ariana grabbed her half-packed suitcase. I took her hand. We walked out together. But Marilyn stood at the bottom of the stairs, blocking our path. Arms folded. Face cold. Eyes burning. "You are not taking her," she said. "Yes," I whispered. "I am. You will ruin everything." "No," I said. "I'm saving everything that matters." Then Marilyn snapped, truly snapped. "She is mine now," she screamed. "She belongs to this family." Ariana flinched. I stepped in front of my daughter like a shield. "She belongs to no one," I said. "Especially not to you." Marilyn's breath shook with fury. "If she leaves now, the wedding is off." Ariana gasped softly. Trevor stepped forward. "Mom." But Ariana squeezed my hand, trembling. Then she whispered something that made me proud in a way I can't put into words. "Then let it be off." Silence. Marilyn stared at her, stunned, betrayed, enraged. "You ungrateful girl," she spat. "After everything I've done." "You didn't do it for me," Ariana whispered. "You did it to control me." Marilyn took a step forward. I stepped forward too. "Touch her again," I whispered. "And I swear on Marcus's grave I will destroy you." For the first time Marilyn saw me. Really saw me. Not poor. Not weak. Not emotional. Not small. But a mother. A force. Something she could not bend. Ariana and I walked past her. Trevor stayed behind, torn, shaking, broken between two worlds. He whispered, "Ariana, I'm sorry." She paused at the door and looked back at him, heartbreak and clarity in her eyes. "I loved you," she said gently. "But I won't love you at the cost of losing myself." Trevor's eyes filled with tears. We left. We walked through the gates, the guard opening them silently as if he knew this moment was bigger than rules. And when the cold night air touched Ariana's face, she inhaled shakily, as if breathing for the first time in weeks. I wrapped my arm around her. "You're safe now," I whispered. But deep inside I knew the storm wasn't over yet. Marilyn Elwood wasn't a woman who accepted defeat. She was a woman who fought back. And she wasn't done with us. Not by a long shot. The night I brought Ariana home was the first night in weeks that I felt her breathe without fear. She curled up on our old couch, wrapped in the blanket her father used to hold around her when she was little. She fell asleep almost instantly, her head resting on my lap the way she used to when thunderstorms used to scare her. But while she slept I sat awake, listening to every car that passed outside, every distant sound, every shifting shadow, because I knew something with absolute certainty. Marilyn Elwood would not let this end quietly. The next morning Ariana woke late with dark circles under her eyes, but there was a new softness in her face, the softness of freedom reclaiming a space it had been pushed out of. She sat at the kitchen table holding a mug of tea with both hands. "Mom," she whispered, "I don't want to go back." "You won't," I said gently. "Not ever." Tears filled her eyes. "Thank you for coming for me." I stroked her hair. There is no world where I wouldn't. We sat together quietly until Ariana's phone buzzed on the table. A single message lit up the screen. Trevor, Ariana, please. Just talk to me. She stared at it without touching the phone. You don't have to respond, I said quietly. Ariana swallowed. I know, but I want closure. She typed with shaking fingers. I'm safe. Please tell your mother to stop contacting me. We waited. Almost immediately, another message appeared. Not from Trevor. Marilyn, we need to talk, Ariana. This behavior is unacceptable. Ariana's breath hitched. She slid the phone across the table like it burned her fingers. Block her, I said softly. I'm scared to, she whispered. You're allowed to protect yourself. After a few long seconds, Ariana pressed the block button. Her shoulders shook with relief. Or fear. Or both. But even before she set the phone down fully, there was a sudden sharp knock at our front door. My blood turned to ice. Ariana grabbed my arm. Mom, she wouldn't. I stood slowly, grounding myself with a breath. When I opened the door, it wasn't Marilyn. It was Trevor. He looked exhausted, as if he hadn't slept. His hair was messy, his eyes red, his shirt wrinkled. A version of him I had never seen before. Mrs. Ward, is she here? I stepped in front of the doorway. You should not be here. He swallowed. I'm not here to force her. I need to talk to her. Please. Behind me, Ariana whispered. Let him in. I hesitated but then moved aside. Trevor stepped inside slowly, cautiously, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to breathe in here. Ariana stayed near the kitchen table, arms wrapped around herself. Trevor looked at her, and something inside him cracked. Ariana, he whispered. I'm so sorry. She didn't speak. He took a shaky step toward her. I didn't know how bad it was. When I came to your room last night, when I saw your face, I felt sick. I confronted my mother. We fought. We've never fought like that. Ariana lowered her eyes. Trevor's voice broke. I should have protected you. I should have listened. I should have seen what she was doing. Trevor, Ariana whispered softly, you didn't see because you grew up under her control. You don't know what normal looks like. He blinked, tears forming. But I know I love you. And I know I would never hurt you. She looked at him, then really looked. The love was still there, but something else had grown too. Clarity. Strength. Self-worth. Trevor, she said gently, love isn't enough when it's standing in someone else's shadow. He inhaled shakily. Ariana, I will move out. I'll leave the estate. I'll cut her off if I have to. I'll do anything. Ariana stepped back, her voice barely above a whisper. It shouldn't take losing me for you to see what she is. Trevor's face crumbled. He reached out a trembling hand, not to touch her, just to reach. But she didn't move forward. Trevor, she said, tears flowing now. I love you. I always will. But I can't go back into a life where someone else decides who I am allowed to be. I'm not asking you to. His voice cracked. I'm asking for a chance to prove that I can change. Then prove it away from me, she whispered. Grow without me. Find your strength without her. Heal. Learn who you are outside of your mother's expectations. He shook with emotion. And what about us? Ariana wiped her tears, but her voice stayed steady. If we're truly meant to be, we'll find each other again. But right now, being with you means being under her. And I can't survive that. Trevor broke into quiet sobs. I had never seen a grown man look so small. Ariana stepped closer, just enough to gently touch his arm. I'm not ending this because I don't love you, she said. I'm ending it because I'm finally learning to love myself. Those words filled the room. Heavy, beautiful, necessary. Trevor nodded, tears streaming. I understand. And he meant it. He turned slowly toward the door, pausing only once to look back at her. One last time, one last heartbreak. I hope someday, he whispered, you'll see me again, a version of me you deserve. Ariana's voice trembled gently. I hope you find him. He nodded and walked out. When the door closed behind him, Ariana collapsed into my arms, sobbing from the deepest part of herself. I feel like everything just broke, she whispered. I held her tightly. Sometimes things have to break so we can breathe again. She cried for a long time. For Trevor. For herself. For the weight she had carried. For the fear she had lived in. And slowly, very slowly, the cracks inside her began to heal. For the next few days, life became quiet again. Ariana started designing dresses with me at the kitchen table. She laughed more. She ate more. She slept without nightmares. She walked around the house barefoot the way she used to. But Marilyn was not done. The first letter came 3 days later. Typed. Formal. Cold. You have cost your daughter her future. You will regret this. I tore it up before Ariana could see it. The second letter came the next day. You have damaged our family reputation. I burned that one. The third letter came with a threat wrapped in elegance. If Ariana does not apologize, I will make sure certain doors remain closed to her socially and professionally. I laughed, a small bitter laugh. Marilyn didn't understand something very simple. My daughter didn't need her world. She would build her own. But the final letter, the one that ended everything, arrived a week later. Handwritten. Shaky. Not by Marilyn. By Trevor. Ariana, I've moved out. I'm staying with a friend. I told my mother I won't be returning home until she gets help for her behavior. She didn't take it well, but I don't care anymore. I'm going to therapy. I'm undoing years of conditioning. I want to learn who I am outside of her. Not for you. For me. Ariana pressed the letter to her chest, tears forming. Not heartbreak tears. Healing tears. She whispered. He's starting. I nodded. Yes. But I'm not going back to him, she said after a moment. Not now. Not after everything. I know, I whispered. And that's okay. She smiled softly. And in that moment, I saw something in her I hadn't seen in months. Peace. Months passed. Ariana rebuilt her life piece by piece. She reopened her small fashion page online. Clients trickled in. Then more. Then more. She bloomed again, brighter than before. Sometimes she got updates through mutual friends. Marilyn refused therapy. Trevor stayed away. The Elwood estate was not as perfect as it looked. But Ariana no longer cared. She had closed that chapter. One afternoon, while we were sewing together, Ariana looked up and said, Mom, I think I found myself again. I smiled. You didn't find yourself, sweetheart. You came home to yourself. She squeezed my hand, and I felt Marcus with us, quiet, proud, watching. A few days later, Ariana placed something on the table. Her engagement ring. I'm ready to let this go, she said. We walked together to the old bridge near our house, the place where Marcus used to take us on Sunday walks. Ariana held the ring, looked at it one last time, whispered, Thank you for the lessons, and dropped it into the river. The water swallowed it, carrying it away. Just like the pain. Just like the fear. Just like the hold the Elwoods once had on her. She breathed deeply, and for the first time in a long time she looked free. Truly beautifully free. I wrapped my arm around her. What now? I asked. She smiled, a bright, gentle smile. Now, she said, I live. And we walked home together, mother and daughter, stronger than ever. Because love didn't save us. Courage did. And we finally understood. No one gets to write our story. Except us. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.